Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name is Stacy if you're new here. Today I'm going to be going through all of my August books that I read and then my September TBR, and yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So the first book that I read throughout the month of August was called The Long Game by Elena Armas. This book was about a soccer heiress. That's probably not the right term, but like her father owned a soccer team basically, and then she was set to inherit said team or be like the next in line should he retire. But then there was just some things that happened where she had to go on a different assignment. Basically her dad forced her to go on this assignment. She ended up in this small little town coaching a youth girls soccer team with a former big shot soccer star. And of course it's a love story, it's a rom-com. Like you could probably see essentially where that's going to go. It was pretty predictable, but I really enjoyed it. And then I read Two Wrongs Make a Right by Chloe Lies. I'm not sure how to say her name, but I read this book that's basically about a friend group kind of pinning to two of their friends, a male and female, together, kind of trying to set them up on a date, but they decided, let's pretend we're dating and stick it to them, show them who's boss, and turns out they ended up, kind of figure out where that's going from there. Because rom-coms are fairly predictable, which is such like the beauty of reading a romance book, watching a rom-com, whatever. It's super predictable. You can kind of get a sense of where it's going pretty quickly, and then it's nice to add those in the middle of like major fantasy, romantasy type books. And then the next book I read, which was basically the sequel of that one, was Better Hate Than Never by the same author, Chloe Lies, and it followed one of the sisters of the female main character and her love story. It was like childhood rivals turned lovers kind of thing. And that one was really, really good too. I really enjoyed both those books. Just the relatability to those characters was just so strong for me, and I loved it. The next books that I read, which is a trilogy, were The Magicians. Book 1. Book 2 is The Magician King. Book 3 is The Magician's Land by Lev Grossman. So The Magicians is the whole story of The Magicians is it follows a male main character who basically got summoned into this magic college where they teach you how to, do the spells and learn how to be a magician, more or less. And then eventually they find out that his favorite childhood books are indeed real. And eventually he ends up staying there. So, there's a lot more that happens. It's such a very simplified, description. And then the second book, The Magician King, is basically ends up being one of the kings in that land and all of the adventures and missteps that do go along with that. And then The Magician's Land is kind of the aftermath of that land becoming essentially, it's like starting to implode on itself, but there's way more to it. Like, I don't want to give away too much, but that's the general consensus of like what each of those books were about. I really enjoyed them. However, the TV show was a lot better, and I hardly ever say that, especially if I watch a motion picture version of a book before reading the book. I have a better way of like separating the two, but this one specifically, the TV show is better. And I don't remember what it's on. I think it's on Netflix, honestly, but I don't remember. So the next book that I read was Will They or Won't They by Ava Wilder. The main female character, Lila, is a actress, and her co-star, they're in love on screen. So then it turns into kind of an enemies to lover situation. Like they had a little fling at the beginning of their career and then broke apart completely from there and then became like enemies, more or less. And then as their show continued on, they became, they fell in love again. Naturally, one of those predictable romances, which, you know what, I'm here for. And next I read I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. This was kind of an autobiography, memoir style book, and she went through a lot. Definitely trigger warnings for eating disorders because she suffered tremendously. But she went through a lot from such a young age, and it's wild to learn what all different childhood stars go through when they are like starting out, especially what their parents put them through. And she goes into a ton of that in her book. And I listened to the audio format, and she reads it, and it's phenomenal. And lastly, I read books 13 through 16, which are the last few books in the Pretty Little Liars series by Sarah Shepard. When it comes to book, 8 and on, it is completely different than the TV show. So a lot of characters that are alive in the show got killed off in the books, or vice versa. A lot of characters are still alive in the books that got killed off in the show, or the storylines for certain characters just aren't so intense, like Arya and Ezra in the TV series. They're probably only in a little bit of the plot in the books. And then there is a twin twist, which if you read the prequel, you kind of get an idea of that twin twist. And the entire series, we know who A is for the entire series. It's just more of like, will the authorities believe them? That kind of thing. Like, nobody else? No, that person's dead. It can't be A. That person cannot be A. But it is in the end. There was like a big twist in the last book with one of the Pretty Little Liars where you're just like, did that just happen? Like, how did I not see that coming? But it just wrapped it up so nicely. And yeah, those are all the books I read in August. So my September TBR, so the books that I want to read this month, is Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. I am rereading the entire series for the first time as an adult, and I've been working on it for several months because I've been getting the books from Libby as they come available to me, and since I've read the whole series, I don't really care to read them back to back to back. So I finally have Half-Blood Prince, and I'll be reading that this week. I already read Red Rising by Pierce Brown, the dramatized audio format, which was amazing. I actually read that book a few months ago in just the regular audio format, which was also amazing. And then I just started A Song of Wraith and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown, which I'm like 95% through, and it's so good. It's so like, it started off with like Aladdin vibes, and then it turned into like it's like Aladdin, and then if say the entire palace got overthrown and Jasmine had to go on the run. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. And I'm not sure where it's going to go from there. It's got a lot of African influences, which is actually really fun to read because I honestly don't know anything about African history or culture. There's some words that I'm like, is this a new, because the whole story is a fantasy book, but I don't know how much of the language is made up by the author for fantasy things, or if it is a true African culture practice or word in general. So I've been kind of looking up some words as I read it, but it's been a lot of fun to read, and I have flown through that book. Like, it is so good. And as soon as I'm done with that book, I'm going to start I think it's Psalm of Storms and Silence. I think the P is silent. So I'll read that one, and I'm super excited. And then one of my friends is reading Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas for the first time. And I read this last year into the beginning of this year, which I loved it, but I am excited to reread it. That'll be a lot of fun. And then finishing off Red Rising series with Golden Star and Morning Star, both with the dramatized versions. That will be a lot of fun. So that is going to conclude this month's book wrap up and TBR. Let me know if you like this style of video. Comment down below if any of these books sound interesting to you. I don't always go off of the popular books on social media, on TikTok, on anything. Like, I see them and I've probably read a good majority of them, but sometimes those books are just so unavailable to me because I mostly read all my books through Libby and library books because I don't want to purchase a bazillion books or ebooks. And I tend to kind of just go off what's the popular at the moment and basically get what's available that sounds great. So sometimes I'll end up with like a bunch of random romances I've never heard of that are the most predictable, yet perfect romances that I have like ever listened to or read. Listening to audiobooks counts as reading. Anyway, I'm going to end this video here. Please like and subscribe. I have tons of exciting content coming. We have some trips coming up soon. We have an exciting move potentially in the next couple of years, which we have to prepare for, but lots and lots of exciting stuff to come. Please subscribe so that you don't miss anything new that's going on. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.